bit.ly. So you can type bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. So bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. That's easy enough, right, Donovan? Donovan is a silent minority.
Speechless.
I'm trying to get my accent right. Hold on. I'm just throwing over it in my head. Let me start. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. How to do it? All right. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go subscribe to this new channel. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yo, what's different about this channel than the last one?
Well,
what's changed?
Well, we're making some changes. We're always doing something new, but this is something that we had to do this, and we've had to do this for a while. So this new channel, it's really not much different, except the channel will be different. So all our new content is going on the channel, and we're going to migrate all our videos over to that channel as well, and we won't be using the old channel. So if you're waiting on that channel, you'll be missing it. So please do subscribe to our new channel, and it's real easy. Follow us on Facebook, thevoiceofstockton.org. You can find us everywhere. Keep watching us on our live streams. But that's it. We just wanted to break in and tell you that.
Do you want to relive the golden days of Stockton? Join Nate Knott on Stockton Alive every first and third Monday at 6 p.m. Tune into thevoiceofstockton.org.
My name is Josh, and you're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
Welcome to KXVS, the voice of Stockton's new show, the premiere episode of the Tom Patti reality show featuring Tom Patti.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is KXVS, and we are part of the Voice of Stockton, and I'm thrilled to be here today. It is our first show, and in the audience, of course, with us, I've got, in the studio here, I've got my daughter, Miss Presley Elise Patanastro, and my good friend, Ted. And so Presley's going to open up the show, and she's going to start off our show in a special way. So Presley, please.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Presley. Don, how about that?
All right. Give it up for Presley out there in the audience.
Ted, what'd you think, buddy?
Oh, that was outstanding. That was wonderful.
Good job, darling. Thank you for doing that for us. Well, listen, we are at a brand new show, and I want to tell you guys right from the onset what we're planning here. I am a local businessman, and I'm also a local elected official, being a current county supervisor. What we're going to be talking about is, of course, politics. We're going to be talking about local issues. We'll be talking about sports and all things that are realistic. Just a good, basic, solid, all-American realistic perspective. So that's why we want to call it the Tom Patti reality show. So I really want to, on the onset of this show, I want to take a moment and talk about and give a little thought for the people that are challenged in Houston, Texas, and all of that part of our great country. And obviously, we've all seen news and read the reports and the hardship. And that storm is one element, and as devastating as that may be, the hardships in so many cases are going to now begin. Not only the cleanup, but there's just thousands and thousands upon people that are displaced. They're going to be homeless. They've, it's an area that's not known to be flooded, so they're oftentimes without any insurances. So there's a lot of hardship there. And so, Presley and I, when we say our prayers every night, we include now, of course, the people in Texas, and we want to just wish them the very best. That was a devastating storm. And ironically enough, there's a couple more storms, of course, coming through this time of the year. This is the hurricane season. I read a report yesterday, interestingly enough, and they try to lop a lot of these things into global warming and climate change. But I read a report that in the early 1900s, there was a storm almost as equal as the one that came in this recent storm, followed by, weeks later, another storm into the Houston area, followed weeks later by another storm just as devastating, just back to back to back. So back then, of course, there weren't a lot of buses, trains, and cars, and wasn't a lot of fossil fuel being used, but there was hardship, and just like then, as in now, I know the people are strong and they're resilient, and this country will rally around them. But we definitely want to say that they are in our thoughts and prayers.
Right.
So, next thing I want to talk about is quite recently. Don, did you get a chance to catch last week that McGregor Mayweather fight?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you saw it live?
I think everyone was watching it. People were Facebook live in the fight.
Isn't that true? I was out at the Orange and Black Ball for the University of Pacific, and all gathered around my table. One of the guy's friends, best friend ever,
Yeah.
was live streaming it on Facebook. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It was crystal clear image.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we were watching the fight live.
Yeah, I saw a few feeds get cut off, and then you got to find your friend's feed.
Yeah, no, it was great. What was your impression of the fight?
Well, it was a great fight, but it's not evenly matched. Different styles. We saw McGregor didn't do anything from the waist down, or I guess we should say from the elbows down.
Right.
So there's a lot of standard moves that McGregor used that would be completely barred. So he had to learn a whole new way of fighting.
True.
Yeah.
True. And it's, of course, not his second nature, his primary nature.
But it was a great fight.
Ted, did you catch any of that fight?
I was not able to catch the fight. I was at a place that I had expected to broadcast the fight. But
were you incarcerated last weekend?
No, I was not.
Okay.
No. Just thank you for asking. It is probably as good to clear that up. But no, I was at a local establishment here, and they had plans to broadcast the fight, and they either didn't want to pay, or they did not pay, or they paid somebody who promised to broadcast
and
it
didn't happen.
deliver.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I missed it.
Presley, did you catch the fight? Were you at a fight party?
Yes, I watched a little bit with my mom. We had a party at the house.
Yeah.
And some friends came over. Me and my friends watched it.
What was the best part of that fight party for you?
Well, I don't watch a lot of fights, so that was like my third fight I've ever seen. So I like watching them fight, and as you, Dad, you are teaching me how to defend myself.
Mm-hmm. I am teaching you some boxing moves, yes.
It's really interesting.
Good, cool. Well, and on that note, Presley, thanks for mentioning that. So a lot of people may not be aware, but I'm a former 5-time state and Golden Glove boxing champion. My extent of experience in boxing brings me all the way back to Catskill, New York,
Yes.
where I left Stockton, and I kind of knew my interests exceeded what Stockton would offer. So I left Stockton after high school and had the opportunity, and I was invited to live and train with a legendary trainer named Casti Amato.
Yes.
Now at that house there were multitudes of fighters, one of them being a 14, actually soon to be 15-year-old young man named Mike Tyson.
Yes.
And so we know, history where that would go. But there were a lot of fighters came and went, but flashing forward several years later, Mike and I were Cuss's last 2 fighters.
Right.
So the extent of my experience was from this genius, this great mentor in life that taught us these incredible skills, but also Cuss constantly worked on the development and the character of a person he would constantly reference. But so going back to boxing and the style, that fight in particular, it captured the I believe it obviously captured the interest of so many, not only from MMA world, but obviously boxing, Mayweather being a well-known and highly established, accomplished fighter. Mayweather's not my particularly favorite style fighter. He's a little bit too defensive for me.
Yeah.
In fact, in my opinion, if you would have had Ray Leonard or Marvin Hagler or Aaron Pryor or a younger Oscar De La Hoya, the fight wouldn't have gone 10 rounds.
Right.
And those guys all packed a heavier punch, and they also fought with bad intentions. They brought the fight to you.
Right.
Mayweather is known for his defense, and to his credit, that's how he chooses to fight, and he's accomplished in such a way. So in my opinion, my estimation, this would happen in that fight, the evaluation of it. You have, as you mentioned, Don, you have a fighter, McGregor, who's used to different rules. Right. So his primary nature is not stand up and box.
Right.
And it's funny because afterwards you read all the Monday, the Monday morning quarterbacks are all like, well, the boxer's a better conditioned athlete and all these different things. They think it's condition. Well, it's not. Condition is not the factor that won that fight. What do you think it is, Don?
Maybe understanding how the rules work. Points.
Well, that's knowing how to score the game. Sure, absolutely. Because a lot of the punches that were thrown in boxing, the punches that count are those that land cleanly and effectively.
Right.
So you can do a lot of tip-tap patters on arms and elbows, and it means nothing.
Right.
It really doesn't. The only blows that are supposed to count are those that land cleanly and effectively. Ted, do you have any idea what won that fight?
No, I do not. I'm going to have to defer to you and your experience.
Okay, well, then, Presley, what won that fight?
Well, I did not watch the ending, so I watched it about in the middle of it because after that, me and my friends went swimming. So
oh, so you didn't have a fight party; you had a swim party, didn't you?
The parents were watching the fight while
I
we
see.
swam.
And was there hot dogs involved?
No.
Okay, so just swim.
Yes.
Potato chips?
No.
Pizza?
Yes.
Okay, so you had pizza. You had a pizza swim fight party.
Nice.
Okay, but the swimming and pizza was primary for you.
No.
No, what was primary?
Well, all of the girls, there were 8 kids.
Yeah.
And they're all girls.
Right.
But we all sat down and about after swimming, we sat down and on the couch and just watched with everybody.
Right.
So.
But the biggest part of the night was about pizza and swimming.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I thought so. I just thought just in case. Well, I'll tell you guys just to end any question. What won that fight was experience. You cannot circumvent, and you cannot pretend, and you cannot dismiss experience.
Yeah.
And I knew that fight was going to go this way. I figured the other guy was going to come out, and much to his credit, he fought exactly the way you need to fight if you're going to beat up a Mayweather. Put the bull on him, show him no respect, and stay on him nonstop. However, McGregor didn't have the experience to pace himself, to go the later rounds.
Right.
If you saw in round 7, 8, 9, all of a sudden you're seeing Mayweather hands up, nice and fresh, chin tucked, and the other guy's got his hands down and he's gasping for air and he's completely gassed out.
Yeah.
But it's not conditioning. If he ran 150 more miles of conditioning training, that would not have made any difference.
Right.
If he would have punched the heavy bag an additional 500 rounds before that fight to get in great shape, it would not have changed one single bit.
What do you need to do?
With experience, and you can, as I said, you can't circumvent it, he needs to fight the rounds.
Yeah.
He needs to be in that ring, and honestly, year after year, day after day. Cuss used to say it takes about 5 years of steady fighting before you can even see a punch coming at you.
Wow.
Because you're so you're so keyed up and you're so nervous about it. And you think about a punch happens in a fraction of a second.
Right.
In truly the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
That's how actually knockouts happen. You don't see the punch coming, you get knocked out, not because you got hit hard.
Right.
A hard hit doesn't knock you out.
No.
A punch you don't see coming will knock you out.
Right.
So in the instance of Mayweather, he's defensive. He knows how to lay back. He knows how to pace himself, and he let the other guy burn himself out. Now, even if he fought a little bit more aggressive pace early on, Mayweather still wouldn't have burnt out. Why? Right. He's done those rounds before. He's fought rounds 1 through 12. Right. He's fought that not once, not twice, dozens and dozens. He's 50-0 now.
Right.
So those years of training, those years of sparring, is what makes the difference. And I'll give you an example. Because I trained with Cuss, I learned the single greatest fighting style that ever existed in the sport of boxing. There's no question about it. Cuss, I know the history of boxing, and I've studied trainers and the eras of fighting since the Queensberry Marquise rules and prior. And Cuss developed a style of how to hit, not get hit, but do it in a manner that excites the crowd. Henceforth, I like an aggressive style versus somebody that's a little more defensive. Right. But what you got from that was an incredible amount of skill. Fantastic. So I boxed. I'm an amateur champion. So we'd fight 3 rounds, and probably a few times in the gym I've boxed 12, 14 rounds at any given time on occasion. But so my experience allows me, my skill set allows me to get in the ring with any fighter on earth tomorrow, today. I could right now glove up and get in the ring and I could do a good 2 or 3 rounds with somebody without training. Give me a week or 2 of training, I'm going to be good for a good 5 rounds with any fighter on earth. Right. And there's no fighter that could outbox me in a gym that would, and you look and say, whoa, yeah, with those skills, wow, what a great fighter. Yeah. But for the title, yeah, I'm not there. Yeah. I haven't done that experience as a pro. I'm not ready psychologically and emotionally to fight those later rounds to pace myself. Right. I would need a half dozen 10-round fights. Yeah. I would need to put in that time and that experience before I was capable of doing those later rounds. Right. So while I can be a great trained and skilled fighter, doesn't mean I'm ready to fight for the title. Right. That's the difference. Yeah. It's experience. And I've got, my gosh, I was boxing back in the 80s, so 30 years later, so I can still fight. I can get in the gym and glove up and do more than hold my own. But the reality is I'm not prepared to fight for a title. Yeah. And that's why Ali beat Foreman. Right. Foreman was a good amateur. Yeah. He was a brute. He was a strong guy. Yeah. Ali waited it out and let him tire himself out, and then he opened up, and that was the deciding factor. And Foreman later in his career was a better fighter than he was earlier in his career. Why? Yeah. Everybody's making fun of all the tomato cans he was fighting, right? They were making fun of he was fighting bum of the month. But what he was doing is getting the experience that he never had prior. Right. He was fighting and getting those, and he was relaxed. Yeah. He was calm, and he was boxing rounds 7, 8, 9, 10. And so when he fought for a title, he was more experienced, more capable, and far more dangerous than when he was a big, young, strong brute. Right. So that's the difference. It's all about experience. You cannot circumvent it. You can't practice it. You cannot dismiss that level. But to his credit, that guy got in the ring. Yeah. He fought a world-class fighter. Yeah. There was no dog in him. He didn't quit. Right. And even if he was a little bit hurt or a little bit rocked and a little bit overwhelmed, that guy did not quit. So McGregor, much to his credit, he hung in there all the way through. And that's a good example, and it's a good reflection of his character and his strength for certain.
Right. So you got to be ready for a marathon when you're talking about boxing. MMA, the matches are traditionally much shorter. They're like 100% at all limbs. Yes. For a short amount of time, and somebody wins. Well, and if you look at the pace of an MMA, it's explosive, highly dangerous. Those guys are the toughest, probably street fighters on earth. Right. I mean, you don't want to mess with them on the ground, up in the standing up. They're going to throw punches. They're going to bring you to the ground. They're going to punish you. You got to fight with them over the phone. But be careful what you say. They'll Google you. Listen. I've had people in business. They make all sorts of threats when they owe you money, and it's like, wait a minute. I'm calling you. I performed a service. I'm here to. I'm calling you as a gentleman to collect money on this debt of service, and they start making threats to me. I'm like, listen. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You say that you're going to beat me up and you can do all these things. How about I send a car to pick you up, to bring you over here, because I don't want you to get lost on the way of this beating you say you're going to give me. So when you get here, everything you say you're going to do, I personally invite you to partake. Oh, and so all of a sudden there's silence because they don't want to take you up on that invitation. No, they're all talk. Yeah.
One thing I noticed about this particular fight, the Mayweather McGregor fight, was that there was a lot of hype, as there is in modern boxing today. Mm-hmm. How long have promoters, broadcasters been doing a level of hype, a level of awareness to try to get?
Listen, honestly, it all changed from Muhammad Ali. In fact, I was watching Rocky Marciano, a great heavyweight champion. He had recently, it was the anniversary of his either his passing or his birthday, forgive me. But it was a press conference when he was going to fight Joe Louis. And so, the words basically are like, well, I just want to tell the folks out there, I've trained real hard, I'm in good condition, and I'm really looking forward to a good fight. And we hope you come on out and enjoy this fight. It should be a good one, right? And then you usually go to the champion, and not in this instance, neither of them were champions, but it would, then the fighter would say, or the champion would say, well, folks, I've been training real hard, and I'm in tip-top condition, and I'm planning on having a great fight tonight, on this next night. And that would be the most of it. But then Ali comes along, and he starts talking about, I'm the greatest, I'm so beautiful, you can't beat me, I'm going to knock it, I'm going to win in certain rounds.
You got poetry in it.
Yeah, but you know where he got that from?
Huh.
Does anybody know where he got it from?
I do not.
Okay, so I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I actually had a chance. I've met Muhammad Ali on multiple occasions. He and Castillo not only shared the same birthday, but they had a long history together. And Ali even asked Cus to be his manager on 4 different occasions before he turned pro, as well as throughout his professional career. But that's a whole other separate story. So Ali was fighting. He won the gold medal, and back then there wasn't a lot of hype if you went to the Olympics. And he was fighting at these arenas, and nobody was there. He was fighting, small round fights, 6-round fight, maybe 8-round fight at some point. Nobody was there. There was just nobody in the audience. He's not making any money. I mean, back then, he probably made, if he was lucky, make $75 or a couple $100. Right. And so he goes back to his hotel room. He turns on the TV, and he's looking at a packed Madison Square Garden. It is slammed with thousands of fans screaming and hollering, and there's this show going on, and there's this showman named Gorgeous George in wrestling. Gorgeous George with his long platinum blonde hair. He's talking about how beautiful he is, how he can't get beat. And Ali says, he's watching this guy, and whether people were booing or cheering, they were paying to see the fight.
Right.
This show. It's a show. So Ali says, I'm going to be that guy of boxing. And from that moment forward, that's when he started being, a braggart. He started being loud and boisterous and promoting, and he was doing it all to hype the fighters and the show, which of course ended up making boxing and the fighters much more relevant and wealthier. So it was smart, but it all changed from Ali.
So if a fan buys a ticket specifically to boo and jeer a fighter, or I guess any professional athlete, that's still money.
One way or another.
One way or another.
You are paying. If you're paying to see somebody get beat, you're paying to see somebody.
Yeah.
That is it.
That's right.
That's just the reality.
Yep.
Which segues to, remember, Don, I was talking earlier, I wanted to bring this up. We're talking, we're obviously doing sports here. So there's this big controversy going on. And guys, being political as I am and involved in, and as I always have been for really last several decades of my life, there's this big movement going on in this country, and there's protests everywhere on every street corner. There's protests about any particular issue. But there's a big controversy going on with Colin Kaepernick ever since he started kneeling on the national anthem last year, which is his right. Yeah, he's in America. It's his right. I may or may not agree with it, but it's his right to do it. Yeah. So everybody now thinks there's this great big giant boycott because he stood up, and somebody's even calling him the modern day Muhammad Ali. Well, here's the reality. Why is he unemployed? Is it because he knelt down? What do you think? Why do you think he's Ted? Why do you think he's?
From what I've read, I have to go back on my days in the NFL. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, it wasn't meant to be that funny, Governor Don, but I'm glad you found it humorous.
Sorry.
From what I've read, and of course, as a fan, I watch ESPN and Fox Sports 1, and I read the Stockton Records sports section, which is very good. They have amazing writers over there, sports writers. I understand that he's just not performing very well. That last year was one of his worst seasons. He's not performing well on the field, and his political positions they're certainly left wing. But Tim Tebow, who's another NFLer who's been out of the league for 4 or 5 seasons now, is very conservative. Mr. Tebow was very open about his Christian faith. He was very open, and he's not working either. So from what I understand, it's the level of play. If you are a good player, NFL ready, and you can play and commit your talents to a team and be a team player, there's a job for you in the NFL. It's
correct.
And I would say, from what I've heard, and again, I'm only reading this in sports media and sports press, is that they just don't feel that he still possesses the talent that he did years ago.
That's correct. That's exactly. The one thing about the NFL is they're making this as if it's a racial thing, if it's being a conscientious objector to the national anthem, and they want to make this whole big political movement out of it. The reality is the NFL owners, and it's a business. It's not a charity-run operation. It's not a political organization. It's not done for society's benefit. It is done solely and specifically for the benefit of profit, and that is it. That is all it is. The color of green is the only color that the owners of the NFL see. They don't see black, they don't see white, they don't see green, they don't see yellow, they see green. They don't see yellow, they don't see orange, they don't see any other color. There's nothing else relevant to them but green. Whoever's going to put people in the seats, as we just talked about, whoever's going to perform at a level that brings excellence and brings a potential championship to your team, that's who you want on board. And like you said, Tim Tebow, as talented as he was, it wasn't good enough to be in the NFL, and so he has moved on, and he's got other challenges, and God bless him.
And he's open about his political beliefs, which are center-right or conservative.
Which had nothing to do, if there was a conservative NFL franchise owner out there, they would have loved to hire him because he believes what they believe politically. But that's not why they hire him. They hire him because you can perform. And Colin was unfortunately not performing. So that's the reality of it.
So I'm probably not going to make it in the NFL, am I?
There is no chance in the world of you making it to the NFL. Presley's got more of a chance than you. Would you ever think about being a football player, Presley?
No.
What are you thinking when you grow up at this point? What are you going to do in your young life at 8 years old?
Well, still I'm 8 years old.
Right, so you got plans. Because you know what they say, failure to plan is planning to fail. So you got to plan now. What are you planning in your future?
Well, I'm thinking about being a doctor.
Thinking about being a doctor?
Yes, I'm thinking about being a doctor. And if not, then I want to be I want to be a singer when I grow up.
Why don't you be a doctor that sings?
Because that's not the same.
Sure it is. You could be a singer and be a doctor.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, you think singing is a full-time gig?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
What's Daddy prefer you to be?
A doctor.
A doctor, sure. We had your great-great-grandfather was a doctor, and then
Dr. Brunetta.
Dr. Brunetta, yes, and then your great-great-great-grandfather was a doctor, a very famous doctor. He worked with all the Indians in Arizona. So he was a very famous doctor there.
Yeah.
How about you, Governor Don? What are you gonna be when you grow up?
Man, I don't know. Maybe I could be a county supervisor.
Nah, that's overrated.
And you know what? If I could just, I got 7 kids. I got a bunch of kids. I don't even know about. All I'm thinking about is them, and if I just want them to do better than I'm doing, do better than upgrade the family.
Yep.
Move on up a little bit. Love, lead their life by love, and then and they'll be all right. And so I don't know. I don't even really think about things that way.
What's the ages of your kids?
Let's see. My youngest is 7, and my oldest are 23.
23. Now, I'm sitting here thinking you're like 32 years old. You seem like this young guy. Honestly, I wouldn't know. You always, listen, you're kind of a young, hip guy. You've got
the vegetables, Tom. It's the vegetables.
Are you vegetarian?
8 years ago, I switched to vegetarian, and I started aging in reverse, and now it's starting to pick up the other direction. I'm starting to pick back
starting
up.
To lose momentum.
Well, I guess I'm picking it back up. 30 somethings is not bad though.
That's not bad. No, honestly, buddy, you're doing good.
Starting point. All right.
So you're off of meat.
Off of meat, 100%.
Is it for moral reasons? Did you you stop eating?
It started off just not drinking sodas.
Okay, that's a great start.
And then it was like, food colorings and high fructose corn syrup, and then like all this MSG, and I kept moving on, and I start feeling better, and the kids start feeling better, the wife's feeling better, and we just keep moving on and try to do more research, and come to find out that it turns out, I'm almost a decade into it. You don't need meat at all. You can live a healthy life. All my numbers look better, when the doctors check me out, and feeling good, and one thing that used to happen a lot is when I slept at night, I wouldn't really get rest, and I'd feel achy and then be tired in the morning.
Yeah.
And so now it's not like that. Now I get good rest at night, even though I still got my aches and different ailments, just from age and all. But I wake up feeling refreshed, and so I'm gonna be a vegetarian when I grow up.
Are you gonna be vegetarian? Well, there's a lot of people that do things for moral reasons and health reasons and such. And that's great, and I applaud that.
Yeah, and I say the moral reason actually did come into play. It kind of all fell into place. I did some research, and like, hey, turns out if Americans would not eat meat like for one day a week, we could like feed 100 million people or something. It's like there's different things that trade off. The pollution would be lower. The environment would be cleaner. Just small steps. So hey, why not? Some big steps would be good.
Right. Well, I feel very strongly. I love animals, especially barbecued, and it's just one of those things I think is important for.
I used to feel the same way. Feel the same way. Yeah. I've ate my fair share of meat, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just making up.
But whatever you're doing, you look young, and honestly, I'm telling you, I would have thought you were in your young 30s. Ted, on the other hand, he looks. I always go somewhere. I tell everybody I'm taking my uncle out to lunch, even though he's probably about 5-10 years younger than me. But
Ted works hard though.
Yeah.
He's grinding.
He's working hard.
Yeah.
He's got more gray hair than I have.
Man, but he's got three or four different bags. A bunch of hats. He's doing a lot. Brand new bag.
There you go. All right, so I wanted to then talk about, and we got rid of the two sport topics I wanted to talk about. We've got some local issues going on here, and one of them that I pretty much got involved in as a county supervisor that's on our doorstep is the marijuana initiative. And that's something that we have a deadline starting this at the beginning of 2018 here. We have a complete, absolute deadline that if we continue the existing ban, which is still in place as we speak, by the way, if we continue the existing ban, then we will miss out on any state revenue, any eligibility for state revenue to offset some of the expenses that our law enforcement and regulation requirements that are going to happen in and around this region. So we have some supervisors that wanted to keep the ban in place, and I understand that. I'm not a drug advocate recreationally. I've seen so many ills. I've got friends of mine that have died on the streets, homeless, coming from good families, and starting with marijuana and it being a gateway for them. It's Russian roulette. There's some that may be fine to experiment and try, and some that are going to try and just completely fall into an abyss of dysfunction and abuse and difficulties in their life. So it was very difficult for me to consider the legalization or allowing it here.
Right.
But this is what I want to share. This is where I believe we are heading or leaning as a community. We're probably going to come up with an ordinance that allows us to facilitate and allow locally grown cannabis for medicinal purposes. I don't see us as a county or a region going into, not in the county at least, going into the recreational marijuana business. Cities might be doing it, and that's going to be up to them. But from what I'm seeing, I think that we're still a good safe approach is staying with medicinal. We've done a lot of work. All of us supervisors have looked throughout the state, and I kept asking for best practices, and you want to see what's working well. And it's well known that up in Calaveras, it turned into a disaster. They were licensing everybody and anybody, and all of a sudden they've got 700 plus people licensed. They've got over 2,500 growers, which means there's a lot of people that are growing that are unlicensed,
right. And
they have an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
So a couple people told me as I'm digging and doing research, they said, well, you ought to do what one of the, I won't name there's an adjoining county, do what they're doing. So I called them up and asked them, how many licensed growers do you have? They said 800. I promptly hung up the phone. Anybody that's allowing 800 growers, that's where you're going to be exasperating your resources. That's where you're going to be spending all of your time on enforcement and code and regulation. So what I have heard of in Lancaster and a couple other places, I'm looking to. They're started it down there, and it caught my attention. But what I'm looking to have is something that would be kind of a campus environment, self-contained, easily secured. A multitude of people can grow at the same campus. You can have testing, you can have manufacturing, you can have distribution, all from a single location.
Yeah.
That to me serves the purpose much greater than if you had 400, 200, 150 growers is a lot, in my opinion. Right. So if you've got them scattered about, and if you have 150, why are you doing only 150? Because the parameters are so open. Then if 150 people qualify, believe me, you're going to have 800 people qualify. And if 800 people qualify, you can have 2,000 people qualify. It can go on and on and on. Right. So I want to see if we can craft, and this is, again, we've not changed the ban as of this as this moment. The newspaper says we did, but we did not end the ban. I'm asking County Council to look into and explore the parameters that we could create in perhaps an industrial zoned area. Yeah. There may be some ag locations that might fit, but we have to have the parameters tight enough where it's not going to be pervasive. It's not going to spread throughout the entire county and be this runaway train that there's no stopping. So that was our approach. That's my approach on taking a look at this to see how we can keep and contain. Right. Now you think about this. A really good point that was brought up is this, what benefit other than money? And I don't think this is a great benefit to the county financially, to our general fund and taxes or anything. I don't think so at all, because we're going to be spending so much money in enforcement and code and such. Yeah. So what benefit? Well, A, we want to make sure we're not locked out of what the state's going to give for any shared taxes for enforcement, because if we continue a ban, then we're going to get $0 to offset those expenditures. Right. What I'm looking at, though, is let's say we got $1 million or $2 million. Let's say we get $2.5 million coming into the county in taxes and revenue, and some of that, granted, will be allocated to enforcement and to police and regulation and such. There's no question or doubt about that. But what if we can take $500,000 of it and utilize that for a homeless program? Mm-hmm. What if we can take another $500,000 of that and use that for a messaging program to make sure adolescents, right, those under 25 years old, are not experimenting and trying drugs? Right. Right now, the county does not have $500,000 for that messaging program. Okay. So if we can utilize money, much like they've done with tobacco. I mean, think about this. When I went to high school back in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, I graduated in 1981 from Stag High, proudly. Yeah. We survived. Yeah. Think about back when I went to school, when you were 13, 14, 15 years old and on, there was a smoking section at the school. Right. 13-year-old kids had packs of cigarettes, and they were smoking cigarettes in the smoking section at the school. I will guarantee in the state of California, there's not one section of a high school designated for smoking. Right?
No. Maybe,
isn't that crazy?
Maybe for breastfeeding.
That's true. There's going to be a room for that. I would guarantee that's allowed. But think about it. And when did you graduate high school, Don?
1991, Yellow Jacket, Berkeley.
91. Okay, so you are younger than me, much younger. Yeah. So that's a good thing. So if we can, but there were
no smoking sections already by that time.
There wasn't.
No.
So think about what they did with taxes and how they implemented and changed the narrative of tobacco and smoking. Right. And it completely, from warning labels to taking off messaging in magazines and cartoons and all of the things that they were doing prior to raising taxes and utilizing that money in a campaign against that product. Mm-hmm. And that had a profound impact in the use, which has a profound impact in the general health, which has a profound impact in our medical expenses, and on and on and on. I mean, the deaths. And I've had on my father's side of the family, I think almost every relative died of some sort of cancer from smoking. They were all smokers. They grew up smoking back in New York.
Lung,
emphysema and lung cancer and on.
In other words, these anti-smoking campaigns that have been going on for quite some time now, they've made smoking uncool for young people. So the best way to get people to stop smoking is to get them not to start in the first place, which
Correct.
these anti-smoking programs are doing, and they're very effective. Now, it's my understanding, Supervisor, that the Board of Supervisors, when they voted on this cannabis proposal, or
Yes.
took that action, it wasn't even a formal proposal. That action came after hearings were held in the community. I understand there was one in North Stockton, in part of your district. This is not something that just came about 4 weeks ago.
Correct.
This is being an ongoing discussion, and it's also my understanding that you attended I believe a conference or a workshop in July in Sacramento at the California Association of Counties. Is that correct?
Yeah, CSAC, California State Association of Counties, is highly engaged, and they were looking to put forward options, elements to consider, ramifications, and a good level of information. We had one of the guys he was, I guess, considered the head of the czar, so to speak, in Colorado, and statistically, and I challenged him. We sat down, we talked, and he actually backed up statistically that there is no higher percentage of usage in teenage or adults in Colorado than there was prior to legalizing it.
Right.
It did not become a runaway freight train.
No.
And I even challenged him with, there was a statistic where there was a 40% increase or 60% increase of admissions in the hospital from edibles for teenage. He goes, yeah. He goes, it went from 8 to 12. he goes, so it was or 8 to 11 or something like that. He goes, so they called it this great big dramatic increase. He goes, but if you looked at it, he goes, but the following year it was back down to like 6.
Right.
So again, I am adamantly and vehemently opposed to recreational use of marijuana and other drugs. It just doesn't. It's not going to help. There's companies right now that in order for you to be employed, and everybody wants a job, they're talking about jobs, trades. If you want to be employed, you got to pass a drug test.
All right.
Flat out.
Yeah.
So if you start the habit and you need and you like and you want to become a regular user from not for medicinal purposes but recreational, you're going to be changing the prospects of your future.
Sure.
And I stand against that. I really, truly, you are not going to be at your optimal. You will not maximize your potential in life if you are using drugs. And I know so many horror stories of person after person that has tried and experimented with drugs. I have a gal friend of mine who was telling me about her cousin. She was in college. She was a biomedic engineer. I mean, an exceptionally smart girl. She's her junior year of college, and somebody gave her pills to study all night and have a great memory, and this is going to help you ace your test.
Right.
And a bunch of kids in the dormitory took it. Right. She got hooked. She dropped out of school, and she lives in Los Angeles, works as a stripper. Yeah. She's in and out of jail and on and off drugs. Her entire life turned around. Maybe 12 other girls and boys were fine trying that drug, but she got hooked. It ruined and turned her whole life around and ruined her forever.
Right.
And so it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not a proponent of it. Now, Presley.
Yeah.
Does Daddy ever talk to you about? Wait, I'm sorry. Does supervisor? What am I when am I at home? Daddy or supervisor?
You're my dad.
Oh, Dad. Okay, Dad. Does Dad ever talk to you about drugs? And what's your impression? What happens when people are using and abusing drugs?
Well, yes, you do talk to me, and you say that if you ever take a drug, your life, if you're going to be a doctor when you grow up, because I do want to be one, and you said if you want to be a doctor when you grow up, you can't take this. This will ruin your life if you take it, and if you ever take that, your life will go all the way down, and I don't want that to happen to you.
Right. And we talk about, like, when we go to the homeless shelter and we talk about the people that are homeless.
Yeah.
And we go there and we feed them, we help, donate things.
Yes.
and help take care of. I know we've done that since you were a little girl. But they say 80% of people that are homeless have some sort of issue with substance abuse. Okay? Now, that means if you had 10 people standing in line, 8 of them would they would have problems associated with drug and substance abuse.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty high percentage when you think about it, right? When if that many homeless people have drug issues, that's a pretty high percentage of how, and a pretty good proof of how bad that product is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's one of those things that we definitely want to constantly reinforce of what not to do.
Yeah.
And speaking of the homeless shelter, it's my understanding that you will be there today as part of the art.
That's right.
Art break. Supervisor will be there to show support for the project and the people participating in that. There was a story in the Stockton Record today. It was a very it's a very worthwhile event that they do once a year at the Stockton Shelter for the Homeless. And I believe Julie Cameron Brown, who's a regular here at this station, is a part of that as well. I know she's
Joy Nees is going to be down there.
Julie? Let's just pause on Julie for a moment. Is she not the most amazing, spectacular, outstanding, dynamic person?
Giant shout out.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
I goes one time. I had a thing for graffiti.
Yeah.
I went and got a scissor lift, and we got rid of this big graffiti on a big brick building. And so I, get it all set up. I had to go somewhere, come back, and get some supplies. And I come back up. I climb up on the roof with the lift. I get up there, and Julie's already up there with a roller and a pan. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I just want to get started." I mean, she's the first in battle, and the last to leave to help clean up and take care of things. And then you turn around, like she's like Superwoman. She's gone somewhere and she's doing something else somewhere else.
Yes.
It's like, and we can just go. I spent an hour. And I told her I'm going to be interviewing her soon.
Oh yeah.
Because she did my interview on this station a while back.
She's amazing.
But she is outstanding. What a great example.
Exactly.
Of what to do and how to make your community better.
Yeah, she's a local treasure. Absolutely.
Right.
She is.
If you need an example, you can find one there. Definitely.
Yeah, and that's one thing.
Dr. Julie.
We can wrap up this first show talking about the community. One thing I found as a supervisor, and you get in, you meet all these people from departments, and you ask questions, and what are we doing, and what can we do more of, and what maybe ideas there are that can do something different or better. And you walk away and you realize that this is the comparison I use. If this was Beverly Hills, if right here in San Joaquin County, let's say we're a great big giant Beverly Hills, we'd have a great property value, we'd have very little gang and very little crime, and we'd have a great community to operate and function under. There wouldn't be a lot of challenges, not a lot of disparity. Well, the reality is we're not. We have challenges. But what you find is there are people like Julie Dameron. There are people in departments. We have people there's a Stephanie James in probation. We've got, I can go up and down in the list and all around. We have people that are being innovative, so much so that the state is studying how good we are doing things because of the results.
Wow.
So I'm comforted in knowing that we have a lot of great people that have stepped up, that are being innovative. We have an incredible and robust. I'm a very proud Rotarian. I'm proud to see all the involvement we have in our community, from the passing out books. Last year we passed out 15,000 books to underprivileged kids. And that's just an annual. We get books out into the community in the Read to Me program. Yeah. We're actively involved, and that's what you love to see. And this is just the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club. You can go up and down the scale and all around in the communities in Manteca, in Lathrop, in Lodi. There are people, obviously Stockton, Tracy, go on and on and on. Every city, Escalon, there are people that have stepped up, that are involved, and that are active in making a difference in their community.
Yeah, Roy Morales is another individual.
Roy is outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's outstanding. He owes me $5, but
there are a lot of unsung heroes in Stockton and San Joaquin County that really make a difference. Unfortunately, we get so much negative press from outside media organizations like from the Bay Area and from Sacramento, but and it overshadows a lot of good that is occurring here. And we have people like Julie Cameron Brown, Roy Morales, a number of other individuals that step up to the plate every time to do the right thing, make this community better.
I was very proud to I stayed on it last year, but I wanted Roy to be recognized as Man of the Year for the African American Chamber, and they recognized, and they once I submitted a breakdown of all that he does and the example, and they did their research, and he was noted as man about town, and they recognized him in 2016 here. I guess was this year. I'm sorry, 2017. He was recognized as one of the Men of the Year in this community, and so well deserved. He's one of these guys that he is there. He does it. He doesn't ask for anything, and he's just present again and again. And that's the difference. A lot of people talk about what they would do. A lot of people talk about what's needed, but there's only some that step up and they're present. They're active. They actually show up and they deliver. Yeah. And that makes the big difference.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you're one of those people too, Tom Patti. So we want to thank you for stepping up and appreciate you coming on to KXVS and doing the show. You're already a very active, great voice out there, but to be able to do it here and to be able to share with the whole community in a way that we could share across the world. So it's
Dynamite.
really awesome.
Well, yeah. Listen, it's about being involved and making a difference and setting a good example. I have my daughter here with me. I couldn't be prouder of the young lady she's turning out to be, and except she. Let's see. What does Presley do that I could say right now that everybody knows you could do better? Well, she's good. She brushes her teeth. She reads. She's doing. I know. She leaves her socks inside out. I'm like, Presley, why are these socks inside out?
Thank you, Governor Don. This was
I'm lucky to have such a good girl. But yeah, thanks, Ted. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Presley. If you want to say any closing words, and thank you, Governor Don. You've been outstanding to have us, and this is the opening show here. Thanks so much to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom Patti. Of course, this is KXVS, the voice of Stockton, and tune in for more great programming right here on the voice of Stockton, and we'll have more Tom Patti reality show coming up. And check the Facebook for the dates.